problem.
It's a major setback, and it's going to change our plans, but we will figure it out. Dum dee dum dee dum dee dum dee dum dee dum dee dum. I don't know if you can see that behind us.
I kind of wonder if the general population understands that when they're walking down the street they talk really loud. I mean, do we talk loud like that? We might, I don't know. Stop! You're not a nice person.
Your Sunday best shirt.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, who goes paddleboarding in that Sunday best shirt?
No, it's not. It's just you didn't want to get sunburned. Although, that does make me think that we should get the kids kayaks and paddleboards out when we're down here.
Yeah.
When we left Bartlesville knowing that we were on a budget. We had a certain amount of money put back to pay for the boat. We had a certain amount of money put back to do the upgrades. And then we had a little extra money in there for us to live off of. Like, we still have to eat, and our kids want dinner every day and stuff.
Plus, one of the things we'd read is that, you know, when everybody starts, it's like being on vacation, and you spend accordingly. But we had a stopgap for that, so
we had a budget, and I feel like we stuck to the budget, to be honest. Other than an ice chest that I really thought was too expensive. We didn't buy anything that we didn't need.
There were a few things that cost a bit more than we were expecting, like the sailing classes, because we had to pay for that extra spot.
We were required to pay for a third person even though there wasn't one.
We ended up spending a little bit more on some of the equipment and some of the shipping because of COVID. But it wasn't anything that was too outrageous.
And it also wasn't anything that wasn't necessary. I mean, we bought the freezer, but we needed the freezer.
Yeah.
That's beside the point. So we started off with this budget, and we've stuck to it pretty good. But we also had like 3 things kind of as a backup plan. One, Steven had some stocks that we did not sell, and we chose to save those stocks. In my mind, we were saving them in case there was an emergency with one of our family members. If Steven had to fly back to the UK, or I needed to get back to Oklahoma because of family issues. And I think I stuck to that pretty strict because of Addison having been sick, and it was in the front of my mind that we need to have money put back for that. And then we still have a couple of things that we probably should have sold, but we didn't, like Steven's truck and our camper. I don't want to sell those 2 things. I want to have them so that when we come back for a visit, we have a place to stay. And if I decide I hate sailing, which might happen today, I got a place to live. I mean, I don't want to be homeless, and we don't want our kids to feel like they don't have a place to go back to if we hate sailing. So anyway, we kept the camper, we kept the truck. But if a major emergency happened, we could always sell those things. And then thirdly, we didn't sell our house before we left. It went on the market the day we left. So, We found out when? June? The early part of June.
And we got a buyer,
Yes.
and that we were going to close on July 31st.
July 30th.
July 30th, because that was a Friday.
It was a Friday.
So, about a week before we were about to close, we got a phone call basically saying that the surveyor of the house has deemed that we needed a new roof. And we were very adamant.
It was two weeks before, but...
Yeah, we weren't going to pay for the roof up front. We wanted to pay for it out of the proceeds of the sale, and that the work wasn't to start until the closing.
So we took that phone call on speaker. Stephen was on speakerphone with the realtor, and I cut him and her off and said, listen, I'm not willing to agree to pay for a roof unless there's a guaranteed sale. I'm not paying for a roof and then having the buyer back out. That money has to come out of the proceeds of the house, of the sale of the house, and it has to be guaranteed that she's closing before anything happens with the roof. And I was insistent on that. I think Stephen was at the point, because he just wants out front of the mortgage, and so do I, that he was willing to say, do whatever you need to do. But I was very insistent. I do not want that roof touched until closing.
And then we got another phone call a few days later, basically saying that there was some paint that needed touching up because they didn't want bare wood for termite reasons. So at that point we said, okay, let's have a look at what everything's going to end up costing, how much money we're going to get back. And by the way, we are not paying for the buyer's closing costs.
Our realtor assured me at that point, she called me personally and said, you are not paying for the closing costs. We know that we never agreed for you to pay for closing costs.
Which, at that point, we then got a phone call basically saying that that the buyer had to take some money out of 401k in order to pay for the closing costs. So they cancelled the closing on the Friday and rescheduled it for the Tuesday.
She'll have her money on Monday, we'll close on Tuesday. That's what they said.
And then
that phone call,
Friday,
that phone call where they said that we can't close on Friday, which it was on Thursday when they called us, also came with the request. The buyer would like you to sign this form saying it was okay for them to go ahead and move their furniture in. And the reason being is that they thought they were closing on Friday, and so they had lined up family members and friends to help them move their furniture. This was a single mom with 2 kids. So she had family lined up and friends that were going to help her move the bigger furniture. We gave an okay for that. And funny enough, when our realtor went to our house to get the keys to hand over to the other realtor so that the woman could move in, the keys were already gone. So the other realtor had already came and taken them before we ever signed the document saying that she could move in.
So we set sail on Sunday, arrived here Monday, fairly late in the afternoon because of all the storms and things.
On the way here, we got another phone call saying that there was a problem with the buyer's last name having changed, I guess because she had been married and divorced, and that basically the underwriter for her financing wanted to proof that her name had changed and that it was legal for her name to have changed and that she was the same person. And
so on Tuesday we got notification that
closing was going to go back to Thursday because of the name change,
and that everything was in place. The lender, everybody was okay. We were all ready to go. And then Wednesday afternoon we were taking the prop to be balanced and to they sharpen the edges as well, and generally clean it up ready for painting, and all of a sudden the buyer's backed out.
This was on Wednesday. Closing was on Thursday.
Oh, and by the way, they authorized for the roof to be redone.
They, being the buyer who backed out and her realtor, authorized the roofing company to go ahead and replace the roof on the house. And then once it was done. After the roof was already completely done, the buyer backed out.
So that left us in a little bit of a panic, because that was $7,500 worth of work that we weren't expecting.
My exact words when they asked for a roof was, I don't want a roof put on that house and then the buyer be able to back out and us be stuck with a roof bill.
So our realtor and her broker have sent the other realtor and the broker a bill for the house.
Yes,
getting the roof
our
on.
realtor and her broker are hashing that out right now. We really don't know how that's going to play out. We do know that our realtor did not authorize the roof to be started. We did not authorize it. And our signature is on nothing that says move forward with the roof. So.
And they're talking about suing the other company and the buyer for backing out of the contract at the last minute and authorizing this work.
So here's the thing. We've looked into it. Legally, we could get a lawyer and we could force the sale to go through and then get our little bit of money. But we're not making a lot off the house. We're making enough to do a little extra repairs to the boat. By the time all that played out and we got the money, I mean, we would have already had to come up with a way to fix the boat as it is, and it'd probably be months before that, years before it ever got settled. I don't have time for that. We need to sell the house. I don't want to pay the mortgage on it.
So at that point, everything came to a screeching halt in terms of getting the boat upgrades, the repairs that we needed to do.
The boat was already on the hard, but they were supposed to start sanding already.
And they were also quoting us for replacing some of the rigging, because we knew some of it.
With the electricity. They were going to help come in and check the electrics.
So we knew that some of the rigging needed changing, not all of it. We've been told that it doesn't need changing right now.
But we wanted to get at least a portion of it done now so that we were ahead of things.
Yeah, because it's expensive to change all of the standing rigging on a boat. So, you know, all those plans have suddenly been put on hold. So
I would say that on Wednesday and maybe even Thursday, Steve and I were in a panic because we came here. The only reason we left Southport on the weekend is because the lady said, "Can I move my furniture in?" To me, that meant she's definitely going through with it. She's moving her dang furniture in the house. However, we wouldn't have came to, we may have even came here to Oriental, but we would have came here.
We could have stayed in the marina for a month.
Booked a slip. We could be living on our boat while we wait for the house to sell. We wouldn't have rented a hotel because in order to finish up the install of the solar panels and the batteries and the water maker and all that, the boat had to be like, all the floors had to be taken out, half the walls had to be taken out, just to get the wiring ran. That wasn't something we wanted to do while we were living on the boat, while the kids were trying to start school. So we, based on the fact that we were fixing to have this money coming in from the sale of the house, we paid $1,500 for a hotel room for 2 weeks. We would have never done that if we would have known the sale was not going through.
So the way it stands right now, we're just going to go and get the bottom job done, get the stuffing box, carry on with the solar install, and then the rigging will just have to wait until the house gets sold.
In our panic, Stephen was like, he was telling me, call Shelby and tell her to sell the camper, and I was like, no, let's just sell the truck. And then it kind of clicked with us that we had saved some stocks that we didn't want to, for an emergency. This is an emergency. We got in a situation where we trusted somebody and we shouldn't have. So in the end, we still have the truck. This is right there. Drove us to the beach today. We still have our camper, which is important to me. If I hate this lifestyle, I might go back there to live in the camper. And we ended up not selling anything, but we did cash in some of our stocks, and that should be enough to get everything finished on the boat, and then we had plans. We were going to do all this work on the boat, and then we were going to sail to New York because Stephen really wants to go to New York, and then be back in Southport by October to pick up our sail, which is another thing that we now have to figure out how to pay for. Somebody go sell our house for us so we can pay for our sail. Anyway, it's not like those first couple of days I just felt like defeated.
Yeah, we were putting like inverters in and wiring up solar panels and checking that everything worked, but at the end of it I just felt completely defeated.
A whole day installing an inverter that we should have been like, it was a lot of work to figure out all the wiring and read the diagram and put it in right. We should have been celebrating, oh look, we have an inverter, but we both felt defeated.
So, forwards and onwards, let's get the bottom job done.
So where are we going right now?
Back to the yard to tell them that they can start sanding.
Today's the day.
Pay for that, and
if God help us, please, if they can sand that boat fast enough and we can get it painted fast enough, we might could get back in the water before our hotel runs out, because we don't want to go back to live on. We can. They allow you to. You can live aboard your boat while it's up on the stands. But
there's no air conditioning, so it's going to be extremely hot.
Our air conditioning is water cooled. It only works if it's in the water.
So that's our update.
That's the major news that we haven't shared with most of the general public.
All right.